everyone. Welcome back to the Trumpet Daily. In 2011, the United States went to war against Muammar Gaddafi's regime in Libya, supposedly in defense of the Libyan people. Here's how President Obama justified the attack.
We knew that if we waited one more day, Benghazi, a city nearly the size of Charlotte, could suffer a massacre that would have reverberated across the region and stained the conscience of the world. It was not in our national interest to let that happen. I refused to let that happen. And so 9 days ago, after consulting the bipartisan leadership of Congress, I authorized military action to stop the killing and enforce UN Security Council Resolution 1973. We struck regime forces approaching Benghazi to save that city and the people within it.
So as you see there, he had to act, he said, in order to prevent a massacre from happening in Benghazi, of all places. And so for 7 months, a U.S.-led bombing campaign smashed Gaddafi's forces. This bombardment, raining down from above, allowed the rebel forces on the ground, radical Islamists, to go on the offensive. They rounded up Gaddafi loyalists, including many civilians, and conducted mass beatings and killings. And the United States just turned a blind eye to these atrocities. Then Libya's rebel forces got hold of Colonel Gaddafi, and they proceeded to sodomize him and parade his beaten and bloodied body through the streets en route to his public execution. The dictator's lynching was recorded and distributed worldwide via YouTube. But instead of pausing to reassess its strategic alliance with these so-called liberators of Libya, the United States just laughed off the grisly killing.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
In other words, why should Libya's Freedom March be hindered by a messy war crimes investigation? The tyrant may have been brutally beaten, sexually assaulted, and shot dead, but Libya was now on the road to full democracy. President Obama said Gaddafi's death marked the end of a long and painful chapter in Libya. He said the people in the new and democratic Libya now had a chance to determine their own destiny.
Our brave pilots have flown in Libya's skies. Our sailors have provided support off Libya's shores. And our leadership at NATO has helped guide our coalition. Without putting a single U.S. service member on the ground, we achieved our objectives, and our NATO mission will soon come to an end. This comes at a time when we see the strength of American leadership across the world. We've taken out al-Qaeda leaders, and we've put them on the path to defeat. We're winding down the war in Iraq and have begun a transition in Afghanistan. And now, working in Libya with friends and allies, we've demonstrated what collective action can achieve in the 21st century.
Hard to believe that was less than 3 years ago. But that's what world leaders at the time, that's what leaders in the United States of America were saying about the new Libya of 2011. Now, I want to compare that with what we were telling you at thetrumpet.com. Here's what my father wrote in October of that same year. He said, "Now America and the West have paved the way for another Iranian victory in Libya. We are rejoicing about the overthrow of Libya's Muammar Gaddafi while we should be mourning. Libyan chaos is now the ideal setting for Iran to bring that nation into its deadly terrorist web." He said, "The government that replaces Gaddafi will be 1,000 times worse." Now, that was written even before the death of Gaddafi. It was written a full year before the massacre in Benghazi that resulted in the murder of a U.S. ambassador. And today, the violence and bloodshed is so bad that Americans are now fleeing the country. Yesterday, the United States decided to shut down its embassy in Tripoli. The latest travel advisory issued by the State Department says it all. It says the security situation in Libya remains unpredictable and unstable. The Libyan government has not been able to adequately build its military and police forces and improve security following the 2011 revolution. It says many military-grade weapons remain in the hands of private individuals, including anti-aircraft weapons that may be used against civilian aviation. Crime levels remain high in many parts of the country. In addition to the threat of crime, various groups have called for attacks against U.S. citizens and U.S. interests in Libya. Extremist groups in Libya have made several specific threats this year against U.S. government officials, citizens, and interests in Libya. Because of the presumption that foreigners, especially U.S. citizens in Libya, may be associated with the U.S. government or U.S. NGOs, travelers should be aware that they may be targeted for kidnapping, violent attacks, or death. U.S. citizens currently in Libya should exercise extreme caution and depart immediately. Now that's Libya today, just 3 years after America's leaders rejoiced over Gaddafi's overthrow. Now, you're obviously not going to get honest coverage from the major media about this disastrous turn of events in Libya. So make sure you go to thetrumpet.com to understand these events under the clear light of Bible prophecy. I just want to refer you to a special report that we put together back in 2011 on Libya and Ethiopia in prophecy. Make sure you go to thetrumpet.com and download your free copy today. Also, my father's program from October of 2012, Benghazi Terrorist Attack Fulfills Prophecy. You can also view this at thetrumpet.com.